Hello, good evening and welcome to our front. Tonight on our front, we take a closer look at the enhanced measures announced by President Akufo-Addo and his government to combat illegal mining, or what we popularly call galamsey here in the Republic of Ghana. This is following mounting pressure from various sectors of society, including organized labor, that back down on their strike request or demand, and the very things that are listed earlier are seen in the latest press release from the presidency. They have outlined 4 key strategies, including the deployment of additional military personnel under Operation Halt, a suspension of mining in forest reserves, and a push for a national pact on illegal mining. We will review these, what they consider to be decisive actions, and examine their impact, especially in light of recent operations led by the military in collaboration with the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. One notable development has been the destruction of 3 Shanfan machines along the heavily polluted Brim River. The crackdown is part of a larger effort, as we've been told, to restore water bodies ravaged by illegal mining here in the Republic of Ghana. Now, are these measures enough to tackle the ongoing menace? Will the military's presence on the ground bring lasting change? How different are these from the previous one? How does the government plan to address deeper systemic challenges driving galamsey? Join us as we unpack these pressing issues and the latest updates from the field with expert commentary and on-the-ground reports, which should be happening pretty soon. Joining me for this all-important conversation are former Lands and Natural Resources Minister Inusa Fuseni, and also security expert and the president of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, Dr. Ishmael Norman. Gentlemen, you're welcome to our front.
Thank you, Ray.
Now, let me start with you, Dr. Norman. Were you super impressed, first and foremost, with the decision by the grouping called Organized Labor to back down or suspend their planned, if you like, strike, which was supposed to happen today, as an introductory remark?
Actually, my brother, I was not happy because I was also for their decision to go. And as late as yesterday, Mr. Ansan of the labor, union, or organized labor union, was actually telling us that as far as they were concerned, it's going to happen. And the reason is that the issue that they wanted to tackle, or the issues they wanted to tackle, are so critical to the survival, to the human security of this country, that I felt that for once, there was a group of people, a cohort of workers that really want to show patriotism and nationalism for this country. So I understand that nobody can compel them to do what they don't want to do. But they created the reliance in me, in everybody, that they were going to fight the battle for us. If they consider the concessions or the promises that have been made by the presidency, that is enough, at least for the start, and because of that, they are not going to do the demonstration, we can't compel them. They have the right to do or not to do. But I feel that they have created an expectation in the minds of Ghanaians, where next time they come out with a decision to go on strike on something as national, as universal, as pollution of water bodies, people will not take them seriously. So I think for credibility's sake, they should have carried out.
That's an interesting perspective. Let me find out if he agrees with you, former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. You're a politician, but these are labor unions that give hope to the people. Some of them within the ranks, like UTAC, is still on strike. UTAC has declared strike. They say the decision by the collective body was not good enough. From your perspective, Mr. Fuseni, was this the right decision? Listen to government's enhanced approach and decide on your own that you are suspending the strike.
Your line is not stable.
Forgive me. I was just asking. Your line is not stable. Yes, sir. I hope it is far better now. The simple question I was asking is whether or not you agree with the organized labor decision to suspend the strike.
No, I don't agree with the organized labor's position. And what the organized labor has described as enhanced proposals for the solution of Galamsey is just a charade. It's clearly insignificant in terms of the damage that has been done to our environment, and it's not going to be of any consequence at all. In fact, I have described it elsewhere as superficial. The approach of government to dealing with Galamsey, which has motivated or influenced labor to call off their intended strike, is clearly superficial, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing new in the suggestions or enhanced proposals by government to deal with the menace.
Now, that is interesting. Let me now take us through, because I have you on, Mr. Fuseni. The very first one I want you to assess for me is the one related to the deployment of additional military, particularly when it comes to that deployment of additional military in the fight against illegal mining. Many had asked for the military to be deployed. What is wrong with the enforcement with additional numbers? And our correspondent was with a team earlier this morning when they moved from Accra straight to the eastern region to go and show action on the ground. It's not what we asked for.
Yeah, so they go and show action. So it's a flash in the pan. They show action. Okay? So 100 military men move to show action. And that is all. I mean, and the military we've seen have been engaged in flashing out illegal miners. And the situation has become worse. And so what are they going to do differently that they didn't do when they were given the opportunity to flash out the illegal miners? It's a flash in the pan. Now, I have said, if you want to deal with Galamsey, there clearly are pathways to dealing with Galamsey. Now you have district chief executives in all the districts of Ghana, and particularly the districts where mining takes place. You have the BNI, you have the police commandants.
It will be possible for me to explore the alternatives you have on the ground, but why do you call this a flash in the pan? I need to understand that.
You need to understand what?
Why you call it a flash in the pan?
Because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So it's a flash in the pan. Simply not sustainable. You can't use the military law and order in perpetuity. And so what is it going to achieve? When the military move in and dislodge the illegal miners and move out, they move in. The illegal miners will move in. That's why it's a flash in the pan.
Well, that's an interesting development, but we understand that beyond having to deploy these men, the plan is also to give them a consistent grouping called the River Guards, who will consistently monitor these water bodies to ensure that nobody is polluting it. Is that not a more sustainable plan?
Have you forgotten that they bought speedboats?
Yes, that's what they are going to use.
So where are they? No, but they bought them about 4 years ago.
Is there a problem with deploying them now?
What I'm saying is that, so what prevented them from deploying them?
I mean, I'm asking whether it's too late to deploy them. Too little, too late?
What prevented you? You bought speedboats at the time that Cecilia Depa was Minister for Works and Housing. You bought speedboats and said you were going to deploy them on the water bodies. I remember she even visited the sites and said they were going to employ water guards 4 years ago. Are there new speedboats, or are talking about those same speedboats? If they are those same speedboats, what prevented them from deploying them? And that should explain to you why we are where we are. Total failure of leadership. Total failure of policy.
Is it
That's
possible?
why we are where we are.
Can there
Catastrophic and disastrous failure.
Can there be an independent evaluation of whether or not River Guards will yield the results we want? In your estimation and understanding of how this war is fought, is the deployment of River Guards a prudent decision in and of itself, whether it happened previously or not?
Well, to fight Galamsey, you need to use many tactics. But the central location, the central axis of the fight against illegal small-scale mining must be the political appointees that you have put in place to supervise over the districts. They they will coordinate all those activities and report back to you. The security agencies who are deployed all over the country, and particularly in mining areas, should be giving you updates on those who are engaged in small-scale mining.
Is it not happening?
The chiefs, it's happening, but the president is not taking action. I have been in that situation before, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that His Excellency the President, the National Security Coordinator, the police in the various areas where mining takes place, the chiefs, all know those who are behind the mining.
Some years ago, the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development did indicate that they are aware of the people who are behind mining in the Republic of Ghana. So would it be absolutely wrong that when military is deployed, then as when they are finished with their initial work,
breaking.
Well, I'll come back to you. I think we should fix that line and get former lands and natural resources.
Okay, that's okay. No, that's okay. I hear they've given me a place to go down.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fantastic to hear from you. I'll come back to you, though. Let me bring in Dr. Ismail Norman. Dr. Norman, I know you have military experience. Your competence in defense is also known. Is it a prudent decision to deploy the military like we have done today from Accra to the eastern region? We understand they'll be going across the country and getting rid of every other person who is supposed to be doing an engagement which is illegal on our river bodies and in our forest. Step in the right direction?
In a way, yes, but we need to understand their order. If the order is just to show face, as Honorable Hussaini is saying, then of course nothing is going to happen, because we've seen this before. Operation Halt, Operation Vanguard, what's the difference? What's the charge? I suggested, even if you're going to do this, you have to back it up with action. And one of the actions to be backed up with is the right to shoot to kill. You are not arresting the people who are doing it. You are just going to drive them away so that they can go and reorganize and then come back in full force. You already said you know the people that are doing the illegal mining in the various districts. You are not going after them. So where is the moral obligation on the part of the government to ensure that our water bodies are actually clean? You haven't taken, before, the turbidity of the water, you haven't taken any samples in order to determine, maybe after a month, to say that this is what we have been able to do, because the turbidity of the water, the mud in the water, has reduced from 70, for example, to, say, 50. Then we see that something is happening, but there is absolutely no real epidemiological military kind of charge to this action. And that is why Honorable Hussaini is saying this is a flash in a pan. What is the army supposed to be doing there in the eastern region? Just to drive the people away? Haven't we seen that before? The drones. Charles Bissiou went to China to buy, was it 2,000 drones, and came back, and they were never used. We didn't see any outcome for that. So deploying drones, river guards, and all of that.
Well, I seem to have lost connection to Dr. Ismail Norman there. Maybe we should fix that in the interim. Let me bring in Mr. Inusuf Hussaini. Mr. Hussaini, there appears to be some understanding that what we are doing now, and I'm taking the military plus the River Guards project together with the deployment of drones all together as surveillance, making sure that our water bodies are consistently being monitored and making sure that we can deploy as and when it's necessary. You do not think that this is still a comprehensive measure?
Oh, they are superficial. Ray, these are superficial methods. They don't address the core problems that we are facing. And the core problem is a leadership failure.
But the president
That's what we must understand.
With respect, the president just promised everybody in the statement from his office that he is committed, heavily committed to this fight. That's the reason why we are beefing up these numbers, and all the four I've indicated are being deployed. Exactly what is it about the posturing of the leadership of this country that makes you feel that it is not as committed as it says on paper?
What commitment is more than saying that you have put your presidency on the line to fight Galamsey? If you want words to manifest commitment or to show commitment, the president did that 4 years ago or 6 years ago when he said he was putting his presidency on the line and jumped on the bandwagon of the media coalition against illegal small-scale mining. Everybody thought when he said so, it showed commitment. Not so.
Yeah.
That's not commitment. Commitment is to be able to hold your political appointees who are destroying the environment, the water bodies, the forest cover, who are introducing hazardous chemicals into the soil, which is affecting the lives of women, children, and newborn babies. Hold them to account. It doesn't show commitment if a minister appointed by the president indicts a person for mining in the forest reserve, and the president himself exonerates that person. That is not commitment.
So who are you referencing here? Let me be quite clear.
It is not commitment.
Minister,
it is not commitment.
Inusa, I think I heard you say that if somebody is indicted and the president exonerates the person, to put it in proper perspective, who are you referencing here?
Akunta mining.
Oh, okay, so the mining part. But what the president said was that they were no longer mining, or they were not mining as of the time you were speaking in forest reserves.
If you commit a crime, does time run against the commission of a crime?
I understand there's no statutes bar on what they call criminality.
So if somebody was engaged in criminality and has stopped, does time run against? You can't prosecute that person.
But the expectation is not that the executive leader of the country will be the one leading the prosecution. It is expected that the relevant institutions like the police and the AG's office will carry out this, what they call it, prosecution, if need be.
Yes, so, and that is why Article 58 of the Constitution bears executive authority in the president. And that is why when you read Article 58 together with Article 2.
Well, I seem to have had some difficulty connecting with him.
You will left no doubt that the president is the government and government is the president.
Interesting.
And the police and all other institutions of states operate under the aegis of governmental institutions.
Well, that's an interesting perspective.
If the president wants to show commitment, he should hold those institutions accountable.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I need to bring Dr. Ismail Norman into this conversation now. Dr. Norman, I was trying to find out from you, from the analysis you did about this deployment, because the deployment appeared to have been one of the main reasons these enhanced, what they call it, measures were believed by organized labor. Do you think that they acted too early and in a rush, not mindful of what you just explained, as supposed to be, we are waiting till the deployment starts yielding the needed results? Okay, Dr. Ismail Norman, if you are with me, I want you to help me understand this point. You have just outlined the defects of this deployment many people are excited about in the Republic of Ghana. The military being pushed to the grounds in the eastern region, we know they are operating currently. From the Brim place, and the number of champagnes that have been burnt or seized from the water bodies and removed from there, the number of people that have been driven away from these water bodies, something that has not happened in a long while. Even though the regional minister said, in times past, when he had tried to fight the same menace on these water bodies, he was met with men holding guns and able to actually fight off the team they are deployed on the ground. Do you still think that this was not the best decision at this time and it's not going to yield the needed results because of the issues he had raised early on?
Ray, this is a cowardly statement to say that a whole nation cannot fight a group of people that are undermining the integrity of this country because you're afraid that you'll be fought by men with whatever. I believe that we have to be a little bit bolder than that and go after. So if a group of terrorists were attacking us, this is the excuse that they were going to give. We need to stop this menace with full force, and no excuse is tenable. We will not accept it. And I believe that, yes, the minister feels that his life will be in danger, but he who wears a cap should know that there is always obligation that comes with that status that you are enjoying. And that obligation for now, he should fall on his sword for the people of Ghana. The military should be given specific order. What are they there for? They are there for to show what? How handsome they are, how well built they are, that they have M16 or M3 in their hands. What is the purpose? If they are shorter, do they have the right to retaliate, to shoot back? I mean, they need to be given clear instructions. Why are we not arresting the people who are doing the galamsey? Or is it because they are financiers of MPP? Is that the reason? My brother, we don't want any lame excuses. The minister for forestry or whatever his status is, he should go after this as his duty to the people of Ghana for all the joy and privileges that he has received from his appointment as a minister.
What do you think about the collaboration that the military is doing with the Small Scale Miners Association of Ghana? I mean, we understand that in partnership with the military, they've actually been able to operate along the Brim River. As part of this has led to 3 shamfans destroyed already in the Brim River in this new anti-galamsey operation. 3 shamfans already destroyed on the Brim River. This is in conjunction, the military in conjunction with the Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. Is this an effective collaboration or odd fellows?
It is a good collaboration whenever a group of people or entities come together to attack a national issue. So I'm all for the collaboration. The military is prepared to collaborate with any group that wants to fight this menace. But in order to be able to be effective, you have to give them specific orders, because in the military, they follow specific orders. If you give a general order, go and stop the galamsey, what are they for? They don't operate in that way. Give them a mission to accomplish, and then they will come back with the result that you want.
No, but let's be clear on this. Colonel Eric Tinadu, who is commander of the Operation Hot Force, revealed that the military would maintain a strong presence around the Brim River and other targeted radar for the next 2 weeks. This is part of the first phase of a broader effort to clamp down on galamsey operations, which have significantly damaged Ghana's water bodies and ecosystems. In fact, exact words I quote to you are, we are launching this operation to make sure that we clear our water bodies, whether registered or unregistered, or of whichever grouping. We don't care. Our concern is that the water body, so far as you are close to the water body, you are our target. That is what he said. In fact, he also said something like, when they got there, many of these, because they started from Enyinem, the area there, Etiwa East District of the Eastern Region too, that's where they also looked at, and other hotspots in the region. The key point is, when they got there, reports indicate that many illegal miners fled the site after receiving a tip-off, temporarily halting their activities before the task force's arrival. But they say they'll be there for the next 2 weeks. Good plan?
I believe that the approach is poorly executed. You know why? The illegal miners, they are very dynamic. They are very flexible. They knew you were coming. They probably already secreted away equipment that will help them. You'll be there for 2 weeks. They know you cannot stay there forever. As Honorable Husseini was saying, you can't stay there forever. You will leave after 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, then what? Then they have free will to do whatever they want to do. This is not going to solve the problem. It is not. And when you wait for so long and you take desperate actions like this to solve a systemic problem like the pollution of water bodies and farmlands and all of that, 2 weeks is not enough. This should have started in 2017 or longer, and it should have been a consistent, ongoing activity, not just periodic show and tell kind of thing. For the optics of it, it's not going to work. Disaster management, emergency preparedness is not a one-time activity. It is a process prolonged over a long period of time. So for me, as Honorable said, Fuseni said, this is a flash in a pan, or maybe a flash in a river.
Would you be happy if you are told that this is just the first phase and that there are subsequent phases that will be rolled out?
In Ghana, every time we start with first phase, it doesn't go beyond that. So for me, the first phase is almost like the final phase. Why do you have a first phase? What are you supposed to achieve in the first phase? Let us know what is supposed to be accomplished in the first phase. And then we can assess whether it is working or not, because you are using the taxpayers' money. Then when you go on to the second phase, we can say you have achieved something. What are we supposed to achieve in the first phase? Why is it secretive? Tell us what you're going to achieve.
Now, let me bring in this Afuseni into this conversation at this point. It's pretty obvious that they are going to be there for 2 weeks, at least in the first phase. It's also obvious that the Galamseyers actually got hint of their operations and decided to flee the areas we are talking about here. We're talking about Enyinem, around the Brim River and other areas close to this. This is very reminiscent of how we have done previous operations. Do you think anything will change this time around?
Ray, it should appear to you by now that His Excellency the President is playing a long game with the people of Ghana.
How so?
Oh, he's left with 59 days to leave office. And so
and that network, okay, well, yes, please proceed. Well, I still have some frozen screen from you, and so I need to bring in Dr. Ismail Norman. Moving beyond the deployment of the military at this point in time, the president has also suspended mining activities in forest reserves.
To fight Galamsey, which intention can be verified, can be assessed, can be appreciated, and not to use comical tactics, superficial tactics, and deploy military and say it is enhanced. How many military men were deployed in the first operation? Have you forgotten the statement made by the parliamentary candidate in Western Region who said before the minister of Western Region that Operation Halt had been disbanded? When was the Operation Halt reconstituted to enable an additional force to be added? These are questions, legitimate questions that we are entitled to ask. When the parliamentary candidate said so in Western Region, did we hear any counter statement from government on the status of Operation Halt? And now you are running to town with an additional force, 100. What about the original force? Where are they? Where are they?
But if they succeeded, we would not be here, right? We all know that. It was a fiasco. It was a completely abandoned project. We all know that for sure, right?
Yeah, so if it was a completely abandoned project and Operation Halt's soldiers were disbanded, what additional? The word additional. What do you mean by additional? Mr. President, what do you mean by additional? Where the original initial number, so that you can now add to that number, which is what you describe as additional. We want to know.
Honorable Idris Afuseni, in the last couple of weeks, I have seen more than 50 statements from various groups. Some of the predominant themes of that particular statement of those statements issued by the various groups was that the military ought to be on the ground. Now, the military has been deployed. Is it not a bit problematic for us to now start criticizing the mode and how the military is being deployed?
Well, I've asked legitimate questions. The questions are, the president says he has enhanced measures to fight Galamsey. And we, as people of Ghana, were told about a couple of months ago by a parliamentary candidate of the president's party that people who were engaged in Galamsey must attack or should attack military men who appear on their side because, to his knowledge, Operation Halt and its operating.
Well, I sure should be able to bring in Dr. Ismail.
So before the minister.
Yes, certainly you are making a final point there, Minister Yunus Afuseni. Well, Dr. Ismail Norman, if I can actually bring you on board, I was asking a question about the president suspending mining activities in forest reserves. Now,
appointee has answered the question. So how do we take what the president says he has done, hook, line, and sinker? How?
Okay, I'll come back to you. And I seem to have a terrible line to you, so I'll come back to you. Maybe we'll fix that within the period that we'll be struggling to reconnect with you. Now, Dr. Ismail Norman, the president says that he has suspended mining activities in forest reserve. The demand of labor was that not only should there be an immediate revocation of LI 2462, which allowed for mining in forest reserves, but all the licenses issued should be withdrawn automatically. We didn't hear anything in connection with the withdrawal of licenses issued, except that the implementation of the LI has been suspended. Do you think that's also going to aid the current deployment and help with the fight against illegal mining? Yes, Dr. Ismail Norman. Can you hear me, Dr. Norman? Well,
Raymond.
Yes, sir.
Raymond.
Yes, you can hear me, Dr. Norman.
Yeah. I believe that I can hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Please go ahead.
Okay. The press release should not have been written by the Director of Communications in the presidency, because the issue contained in that press release is so important to many Ghanaians that the president himself should have announced it. Because at some point, I'm afraid that there will be plausible denial that the president didn't mean that maybe Mr. Ahin released that press statement without actually consulting fully the president.
How so?
If such an important matter has been delegated to a subordinate to tell Ghanaians, the people that voted you into power, there's something wrong. Secondly, I do not see that anything good is going to come out of it, because this matter has been going on for so long. How do you bring the turbidity of the water of Ghana from 70 to, say, 40 within this period? And as Honorable Fuseni was saying, the man has very limited time to remain in power. But should it be about the duration of how long he stays in power? This is about his legacy also. This is about MPP. This is about the future of Ghanaians. So I believe that the military may be ready to perform their duty, but we are approaching it in such a way that it is like child's glove. We're not approaching it as men should tackle a very serious matter of our water becoming so contaminated that even if you drink bottled water, it is still, there's going to be residue of mercury, of all kinds of chemicals in your bottled water, because all the water systems in Ghana are interlinked, including the well water. They are all interlinked. So this is a matter that should be a national security concern. and should not be one that you are approaching it as if you can solve it overnight. It will not be solved in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years.
Now, it's an interesting perspective you bring to this. The period the president has to fix this and the very period he has to stay in office, and also the fact that we are not actually, we've not had a history of sustaining this for a very, very long time. Let me bring Inus Afuseni into this conversation. Since you've been in that ministry before, I was talking about this indication from the president. He says he has suspended mining in forest reserves. He's also taking the LI 2462 to Parliament for some form of a revocation or review of a sort, like Labour asked it to do. The bit of having to withdraw licenses from people who have already been given licenses was not touched on by the presidential statement. But from the response given to Labour by the executive lead of the country, do you think it resolves the problem about the legal framework required for us to operate or not operate at all in forest reserves? Yes, Mr. Afuseni. Please unmute. Yes, Inusa, if you could unmute for me, it will be perfect.
Can you hear me now?
That's perfect.
Good. No, it won't resolve the problem. It's marks of dishonesty. The law LI 2462 was passed in 2023, last year. The complaint of mining in forest areas is consequent upon the passing of the law. It means those who acquired rights after the passage of the law can still keep those rights, their accrued rights. Now the president says, I'm going to Parliament to revoke the law. And we know the Constitution says that even a revocation of a law cannot have retroactive effect. You know that?
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
Yes. So those licenses that were granted earlier until the revocation occurs will still be entitled to mine in the forest reserves because they have got rights to those concessions. The president doesn't deal with it. And precisely, it is those concessions that Ghanaians are complaining about. And don't you see the president is playing hanky-panky? You don't see it? He says, I'm going to revoke the law. So revocation will have prospective effects. From the day the law is revoked going forward, no licenses will be issued to mine in forest reserves. What about those licenses that have been issued before the revocation or the time that the LI will be revoked? What happens to them? That is why I support Labour when they say declare a state of emergency. When you so declare a state of emergency under Article 31 of the Constitution, you freeze all rights. You freeze those rights. And then you can deal with the situation until they become better. These are the things that organized labor and civil society organizations, including the people of Ghana against illegal mining, were asking for. And they're not dummies. They know that what the president has promised will yield nothing.
Well,
you see,
I need to draw attention to the fact that the president did not only promise to revoke, he also said there is a suspension of all mining in forests. He said that in the statement. I could quote verbatim the line for you, sir.
Yes. Quote for me. Because I've read it.
No, so the president has instructed, along with the EPA, to suspend the enforcement of the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation, LI 2462, with immediate effect. So the law is not being implemented now. He says he has suspended the enforcement of it.
The president has no power to suspend the enforcement of a law. Again, an illegality. It's an illegality.
Please explain to those of us who have no appreciation of the law.
When a law is passed by Parliament and assented to by the President, it takes a life of its own until the President goes back to Parliament to request of Parliament to revoke the law or suspend the operation of the law. The President is not a lawmaker. How can he suspend the operation of a law?
And even if he's asking his ministers to do so, you still think it is improper and inappropriate?
That is why I say that it will yield nothing, because he has no such power to suspend the operation of a law. So they will treat what he's saying with contempt.
Even if it's a legislative instrument?
Well, the legislative instrument, when it was going to become law, didn't it go to Parliament and stay there for 21 days?
It did.
Is it not part of Article 11 of the Constitution?
Very well. It's part of the laws of this country.
So why do you think that if it is an LI, the President can revoke or can suspend the operation of the LI?
So if I can hear you right, or maybe construe properly what you're saying, that this directive to the ministry and the EPA
is much ado about nothing. It's much ado about nothing.
And that
when I read all what they consider, all that they considered as enhanced measures, I became livid. He says political parties and leaders of political parties must sign a pact.
Mr. Fuseni, that's the last question I'll be coming to. But I wanted clarity on this point because of the importance in educating the people on the matter. You are saying that if I am mining in a forest reserve or in the forest today, I can disregard what has been stated by the President, which directs the Ministry
has no
of
power
Environment
to suspend the operation of a law. He has to go to Parliament. That's what I'm telling you.
Well,
to ask the President where he derived his power from to suspend the operation of a law.
Well, I think we can now move to the very last point. Dr. Ishmael, there's a general cue that we should get political parties to sit together, sign a pact. This pact is supposed to commit all of them to the fight against illegal mining. Is it much ado about nothing, merely ceremonial, or it is not only symbolic but substantive?
First of all, you've been in power for almost 8 years. You never called the political parties to sign any joint pact. Why all of a sudden you are confronted with a problem you cannot solve, and so you want to distribute the responsibilities to other people? If I were an opposition political party, I won't sign it.
Why not so? Are they not committed to the fight against illegal mining, or they intend abusing that to get votes?
If they are in power, they will solve the problem in their way. But you cannot sit on a problem for 7 and 8 months, and then all of a sudden you want me to socialize the responsibility when you have capitalized everything to yourself. No way. I wouldn't sign it from the point of view of responsibility, culpability. If I were a political party, I wouldn't sign it.
Would that also not look bad on a political party that you are not committed to the fight against illegal mining?
They are committed to the fight against the illegal mining. I know that ex-President Mahama is committed. I know that Alan is committed. Chada is committed. However, this is his show. This is President Akufo-Addo's show. So to socialize the responsibility is a way of diverting attention from the fact that his administration has failed Ghanaians disastrously when it comes to environmental sustainability.
Okay, so, but there's a thinking that for this not to be a partisan issue, for this not to be used against the incumbent government, which intends or has deployed military to fight it, it is the belief of the current occupiers of governance in this country that they really ought to have a system where the opposition can equally be compelled not to use the current fight or the lack thereof as a campaigning tool. That is why they want them all bound by a pact. Is this not a feasible ploy, mindful of our circumstances?
It is not. It is not. Our constitution allows freedom of expression. You cannot limit anybody's ability to talk about issues that they care about. It doesn't matter who is supposed to suffer the consequences of it, so long as they have not assaulted you, insulted you, or said something that is not true. So it is almost too late to get collaborative spirit into this. If NDC comes into power next, come January 7th or come December 7th, they will take care of this matter. They will inherit this matter. It will become their responsibility. For now, President Akufo-Addo, MPP government should do what they can do to solve the problem, and they shouldn't try to share it because they created it. They own it.
Now, let me bring it in, Sir Fuseni, on this point. Do you support, you're a politician, you have been a minister in the previous government, Galamsey can be used for partisan politics. For example, people believe that when this government is fighting it, it can be said by you in the opposition that the government is actually taking food out of the mouths of the people. So to prevent some of those conditions, it is incumbent on you politicians to sign a pact like you do a peace pact before an election, that nobody is going to use Galamsey for partisan politics or refuse to fight it for their own pecuniary interest.
Ray, don't you see that that's marks of dereliction of duty?
But this is
It's
an
marks of
additional
dereliction
measure.
of duty.
It is an additional measure. It is not the only measure,
No,
even in this list.
It's dereliction of duty. And that's what Dr. Norman has eloquently stated. The president, I remember, on the 7th day of January, when he was swearing an oath of office, he swore to uphold, he swore on the Bible to uphold the laws of this country, for God's sake. Act 703 is part of the laws of this country. Act 703 proscribes illegal mining and provides a sanctions regime for anybody who disregards the provisions of the law and mines with impunity. When we elect a president into office and he swears on the Bible to uphold the laws of the Constitution, the least we expect of him is to give fidelity to the law and not share the responsibility. After all, when the president was swearing the oath of office, he didn't swear that oath together with any other person. He didn't. So why will you say other political parties might join you in signing a pact? Why would you say so? Do they share the responsibility of upholding the laws of this country with you? Not to enforce the laws, direct the enforcement of the laws, and not demand for a signing of a pact. I say that if there's a new president on the 7th day of January 2025, we will demand the same level of accountability from that person.
But what can we do then to prevent political parties from exploiting this matter?
Well,
yes,
what can we do to prevent political parties from exploiting this matter?
Yeah.
What we can do to prevent political parties from exploiting this matter is for the president to demonstrate a level of commitment that will inspire confidence in all political parties that we are on the right track and the president is doing the right things. Then he will be entitled to support from all political parties.
Will it be realistic in politics, realpolitik, to expect those of you in the NDC to say President Akufo-Addo is on the right track and is doing the right things, so people should be happy about how he's fighting the illegal mining miners? Is that realistic politics in this republic?
Are you suggesting, Ray, that we can have a national interest?
It
is when the national interest when partisan interest is substituted for national interest. That is when the people of this country refuse to lend their support to their leader.
Okay. Now, gentlemen, I know you are both very distinguished legal brains. Let me start with you, Dr. Ismail Norman. We are setting up specialized courts. In fact, in the TUC, the Organized Labor Statement, they indicated that 14 of those courts have been set up. High Court, Circuit Court 7, High Court 7. But in the statement from the Office of the President, it is indicated that only 4 courts have been set up. AG and the Chief Justice working together. Dedicated, specialized courts to do with illegal mining alone. This should be a step in the right direction. Indeed, it was on the list of requests by organized labor. Is this a step in the right direction? Is this progressive? Are we taking the issue about the enforcement of our law serious from this perspective?
Who are the persons of interest that they're going to arrest and bring to the court? The financiers of illegal mining, or the boys who are struggling for a little bit of money to eat? I don't know what the persons of interest are. It's good to have the specialized court. But if you say that you know the people who are doing the illegal mining, the big guys, why haven't they been arrested? Why hasn't the police gone after them? And then you can talk about the legitimacy of the court. What is the court supposed? Who is the court supposed to try? Does the court have the technical expertise to actually do the trial? It's one thing being a lawyer and one thing understanding toxicology, poisoning, chemical composition. It is another thing. So do they have the expertise?
Well, those are important questions, but let me hear what you think about this, Idris Hussaini.
You see, the court only prosecutes those who are brought to the court, not to.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so if the president says I've added as 4 additional court, and they go to arrest the workers and bring them, that doesn't kill the disease. It only deals with the symptoms. Doesn't kill the disease. And so the president should not deceive us. Those guys you see there, they are workers. So who are those financing them? You think those boys can buy excavators? You think they have enough money to buy the mercury and the cyanide and the lead? You think that they have the money? They're working for daily bread. So you arrest them, you arrest the workers and send them to court. They put them in. But the financiers will recruit more labor. And there's no shortage of labor on the Galamsey sites. Yesterday I saw children as young as 10 years working on the Galamsey sites. So clearly there's no shortage of labor. But who are those driving it? Who are making it possible for the Galamsey to thrive? You mean the president and his national security doesn't know those people? So you can set up even 10 or 20 or 100 specialized courts. You will not achieve the intended purpose if you don't go to the root of the problem, but deal with the symptoms of the problem. And the president, in my view, is dealing with the symptoms and not the cause.
Now, talk about cause, because we're wrapping up this conversation. In under a minute for each of you, what is the way forward? What should we be seeing President Akufo do now? Inusa first. Yes, Honorable Inusa Hussaini. Okay, let me bring to you also the view of Ismail Norman. Doc, what should President be doing right now? Well, I understand that there's a problem with the connection to these two gentlemen. I guess it will be perfect timing for us to tie the nice ribbons on today's edition of UPFront. Many thanks to you for joining us, Inusa Hussaini, and also to you, Dr. Ismail Norman, for giving us a fantastic conversation on the fight that's commenced against illegal mining. Good evening.